This is Jordan Moorhead, and this is the Austin Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today we have Lucas Piper coming on here. He's the owner of Star VHR. They do a lot of short-term rentals here in Central Texas, and he has a lot of insight on the STR regulations here in Austin. So that's exactly what we're talking about here today. Hey, Lucas, how are you?
What's up, my man, Jordan?
Thank you so much for coming on here, bro. I really appreciate it. I know stuff's changing so quickly and so drastically with the Austin short-term rentals, and I know you're the man to talk about it. For anybody that doesn't know who you are, can you kind of explain what you do and why you're the person to talk about this subject specifically?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, man. So I've been doing short-term rentals for a few years now. Just started on my own, but within the last couple of years started 5-star vacation home rentals. And we've definitely become one of the top properties in property management companies in Central Texas. We really focus on the luxury side of things. We have a few of our own, but a lot of our portfolio is managing for other people, running numbers every day, things like that. And then I've been able to start giving back. And so I've started a couple Facebook groups here in Austin. I've kind of become the go-to guy to teach a lot of the local, short-term rental operators all the tricks of the trade. And so I really try to stay up to date on everything that's going on. And this licensing stuff was definitely crazy. A huge shift that really none of us expected that it would go this way. Yeah. And so it's really changing the landscape of, short-term rentals, especially in Austin, Texas.
So, yeah, what I used to tell people was essentially if you don't live, the property's not your homestead, you're not going to get a license for it.
That's right.
That's about right. Yeah. There's 120 licenses that weren't for homesteads, and they were extremely hard to get.
Yeah, so there wasn't any that you could get.
Yeah, exactly.
They were grandfathered in. So there was a few type 2s that I didn't know that number, but that sounds about right. That, I think there was like 350 to start with. And then of course, as they sold, it didn't transfer. And so essentially it was people that were holding licenses from before the ordinance, which was in 2019. So you would have had to have a license before 2018. And if you did, then you were grandfathered in with a type 2. And so we'll get into all this gushy stuff, type 1, type 2, but you're essentially right that before it had to be your homestead, which obviously we can only have one of those in Texas. It has to be our primary residence. And so if it wasn't, you could not get an STR license unless you were like multifamily or commercial or some other kind of loophole like that. So
yeah, there's some exemptions, but not a lot.
Exactly.
So what you just were talking about, the STR type 1, STR type 2, I don't know anything about what they are now. I know what they were before this, but now things have changed with short-term rentals in Austin. So what do you need to do to get a short-term rental license now, and who's able to get that?
Yeah, so it completely shifted from what it was. So essentially, the best chance you had before was multifamily. If it wasn't your homestead, was going for that type 3 license. And I know that you kind of worked with a few of your investors on that route. So that was kind of, one route that we talked about with people. And so now that it's completely flipped, essentially it's still the same exact designation. So we still have type 1, type 2, type 3. It's just completely different rules on what it means to get that. So now for type 2, which is a non-occupied home, so would be most homes for investors. All you have to do, what's that?
Non-owner occupied.
Non-owner occupied
property. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. All you need to do is send that application into the city of Austin, and they've actually been pretty quick, honestly, to get back to people. I'm surprised because they were pretty backed up as the way it was, and we're seeing like pretty quick turnarounds here, like a few weeks. Really? But all you have to do is pay that fee, which I think now is $650, something like that, and send a couple documents in, mostly just that the house has insurance, and you have a type 2 license. And so what that means is that you have to pay 11% a hotel tax, which we call HOT. So 11% city hotel tax at the end of each quarter. So you would essentially look at your gross revenue. They want all of your revenue. So they want the revenue from cleaning fees, all that stuff. So that gross number, 11% of that, and you're sending that that monthly 11% to the city once a quarter. So that's kind of the part that you have to make sure that you're running into the numbers, of course.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, again, just to recap, before it was almost impossible, technically impossible to get a non-owner occupied short-term rental license for something that was not multifamily. And even then there was a lot of hoops to jump through. Now it's a few weeks and a $650 application fee, and then you just need to pay the taxes. And I think what a lot of the questions that I get from people are, why would I get a short-term rental license anyway? It seems like everybody's doing it anyway. Why am I going to go get a license and pay that 11%? And then there's a 6% state tax on top of that, correct?
Yes. So if you're using Airbnb, for instance, Airbnb is going to automatically submit that state tax for you. So you're automatically paying that 6%.
Oh, cool.
The guest is paying that. So yeah. And VRBO, it's the same way as well. Unless you're like us who, we kind of take payments from VRBO because we have a direct booking site. So we won't get into the weeds with that too much, but essentially we'll just talk about Airbnb. It's easy. It's simplified. State already takes their 6%. You can also set it so you can take that 11% and make that guest pay that, right? But that's still making their rate go up. And so if you're trying to compete with your neighbor who doesn't have an STR license and isn't charging an extra 11% and paying that to the city, well, that's a big difference, right? When your competitor can mark it down 10 or 11%. So to answer that question, I mean, it's the law. We're law-abiding citizens, that would be the formal way to say it. But really, this is a question that I'm pushing with the city. I'm trying to become kind of their spokesperson because of my position within these STR Austin groups and things like that. They broke the news to me first, so I could break it to those groups, things like that. So this is one of the things that I'm talking to them about and trying to bring them into our events to say, hey guys, we're competing against all these people without licenses. Like, why would we do that? I mean, we should essentially just let our licenses go, or put 0%, $0 in. That's how much we're making every month, because this isn't fair. There's somewhere between 10 and 14,000 STRs. That number is really hard to find out because some people just rent like their house one time a year. I don't know if we count those, but either way, 10 to 14,000 properties. There's about 2,000 licenses last time I looked. That's not a lot, right?
Wow.
So yeah, and so our owners that are paying that, our houses that we're paying that, it feels pretty unfair. I was just driving by today, and there's a group of 5 that I used to manage, and they've had those for like 4 years. So they don't have licenses, they never have. So they, those properties probably make $250,000 a year. That's a lot of money you're saving, compared to your competition. So it's not fair. And I don't know how to answer that to the owners other than, the hope will be that at some point, maybe these transfer, right? Or maybe they make a law that again says, hey, no more short-term rentals. This is it. And then all of us that have the licenses are grandfathered in, and everyone else isn't able to get a license. So that's why I'm encouraging all my owners to get licenses at this time.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think that the risk would be, I think they will do something like that. It's, from my understanding, they got beat in a legal battle. So this is not what the city wanted to do in the first place.
Correct.
So they got beat in a legal battle. New regulation is slow as molasses in any city, and it's very slow here in Austin. So yes. I would imagine they're working on something different for this already. And we'll find another way to limit short-term rentals in Austin. So if you get the license now, like you said, you're probably going to be grandfathered in. And if they find a way to actually enforce having a license,
Yes.
that it seems like in the long run, it could be an opportunity to make a lot of money if you have the right license.
Exactly. Yep. And that's how we're looking on it. And I'm hoping that they do. I mean, I get everyone has different views on this stuff, but I don't mind some sort of government intervention. I just don't think there's another party that can do it. Unfortunately, I hope someday we figure out a solution for that, because they're not good at it. Unfortunately, they're the only ones out there that that we have at this point. And so I think that there should be limits. I don't think their entire kind of 3-mile radius of Austin should be full of Airbnbs. You can argue that, capitalism and the free market would solve that. I disagree. I think that, especially you would have entire neighborhoods flooded with STRs. Just because if you're 2 miles from downtown, you know what I mean? Like, that's a great STR, right? Even if there's 4 right there. And I don't want to see that happen to Austin. And so I believe in some sort of cap. I believe in kind of what San Antonio has, which is essentially like 13% of every block could be an STR. I really like that. That limits it. So you don't, again, have an entire neighborhood that's an STR. Because I don't know, like, even being an STR operator, like, I'm always empathetic to the neighbors, and it's not always the neighbor's favorite thing to have 16 bachelorettes rolling in and out of their house, at rolling into the house at 6 a.m., drunk and sloppy as they're bringing their kid out for school, right? It's not probably not their favorite neighbor. And of course we try to, make our properties as legit as possible to not deal with that kind of stuff. But long way of saying that I hope some legislation happens. I hope that we're rewarded for those of us that are kind of following, those laws right now and getting those licenses and keeping up with those payments.
And I think there's another perspective, and I don't know if I agree with you or if I agree with just the pure capitalist approach.
Yeah.
Of the best are going to weed out the rest. So I know your Airbnbs, like the home that you're moving out of, is amazing. You guys have a pool, you've got a mural, you've got all this shade in the backyard. It's what you would want if you were going to go stay in a short-term rental, where I've seen some that are cheap furniture put together in poor pictures. And I think you could make an argument that stuff like you're managing, I know you're very particular about what you manage or what you own.
Yeah.
It is going to rise to the top, and it's going to get all the bookings for all these mediocre, what used to work on Airbnb 5-6 years ago is going to just be put out of business and have to turn back into long-term rentals. So I don't know how we'll get there, but I think we're going towards what maybe fewer properties getting all the bookings. And I don't know if licenses have anything to do with that personally.
Yeah. No, we'll see, man. It's always kind of an interesting debate. And like you said, I mean, the thing that we know is that legislation is really slow. So, I mean, my stance on this is that we probably have a year and a half before we hear anything. This has to go through city council now. They seem to be pretty pro STR from what I hear from kind of my inside sources.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they like the hot tax, in what they can do with that extra money. So that's the word on the street, but we'll see, man. And you're right though. I mean, it's going to be that much more important. I mean, we've been talking about it for the last 2 years as STRs have gotten flooded by investors. Now even more, like, you better be good. Like, your reviews better be very good. Your house better be well taken care of, because there's going to be a lot more investors coming in now that are savvy and willing to put whatever it takes in some of those backyards that I've done, which are, $100,000 to $250,000 backyards. Like, I think those are going to be getting done all over Austin now to attract those those groups that you're talking about. So.
Yeah. I mean, when I go to and I don't use short-term rentals or Airbnbs very often myself, but when I go and it seems worn or there's stuff that's broken or it's not so great, I'm just I'm really bummed out I just didn't go to a hotel, but when you go to a really nice one, especially with a group of friends, it's so much better than most hotels, and it's
Yeah.
just a great experience being able to have a community in the house while you're there. So I don't know, do you think that the ability to get licensed now is going to increase the supply of short-term rentals in Austin? Because like you said, there's already a lot.
Yeah, I think it still will for the short term. So I think we were just hitting this apex where people weren't making money in STRs, and I think we were just starting to see people drop out, and those same people are going to continue to drop out. But now I think we're that apex has shifted to probably a few months out, where we're going to be flooded again with new investors, people that have been waiting to invest in the Austin market. And like we see this in different places where some people invest that don't even care if they make money, Jordan. That like there's like, I
Yeah.
want a house in Austin, you know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
you're gonna have some of those. You're gonna have people, people just they want vacation houses, and if I break even, cool. So I think you're gonna have a lot more of that stuff too, which all takes away from other people's revenue. And again, I'm all for that. I'm all against competing against those people. But I think that you are going to see more of an increase, and then probably somewhere around March to September of next year, people will feel that again, and then you'll kind of have another wave of people moving out of the market. Because even with some of ours, I mean, we've seen, those stats came out of the decreases on Airbnb, and it was like 40%, and it was some really unrealistic numbers for like a market in general, or total market. But we have seen properties, some of ours, that have 35% reduction in average daily rates or monthly revenue from last year. So we have seen that even in our portfolio, and so we're really pushing those owners to say, you got to reinvest and do some fun things here, or it's not going to
Mhm.
make it. It's going to keep sliding. So
Is there anything specific where you're seeing the reduction in the ADR or the yearly gross income? Any specific, or is it just worn out properties that might need a
yeah,
fresh
it
thing?
seems to just be worn. Yeah, just kind of mid-tier properties that before
Mhm.
were probably more on that spectrum of being a little bit nicer, and
Mhm.
now with all of the new shiny objects out there, and new builds or just rehab properties, those are just kind of taking a dive bomb. So
And I actually like, you just brought up something that so many people called me about the last few years of, hey, I want a second home in Austin and I want to be able to run a short-term rental on it.
yeah,
And I kind of had to unfortunately tell these people, hey, unless it's going to be your primary residence, you're going to have a hard time getting a license to do that. But for somebody that wants a second home and say, hey, maybe they don't care if the full mortgage gets covered, but they just want it beaten down a little bit for the year they own it. Maybe they're not in it all the time. That could be a really great opportunity. So that's a great idea. For me, selling real estate and talking to people all day,
hundred
I'm gonna
percent.
I'm gonna call some of those people when we get done with this show here.
No, I mean you should, and I think that it's definitely like one of our dreams, and the reason I got into this industry when back in the GoBundance days of doing, we're still in GoBundance, but I'm saying like one of those vision boards I did, it was like, well, I
Mhm.
want houses in all of these amazing places, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what I'll do is I'll have a house in Colorado, I'll have a house in San Diego, I'll have a house in Belize, I'll have a house in Puerto Rico, and those will all be STRs, and hopefully I'll make money off those though, right? Because I'll be managing them
Yeah.
myself, whereas a lot of these other people are like, I don't want anything to do with it, I'll just have a manager do it, which takes 20%, right? So
Mhm.
either way, hopefully they make money too. But yeah, man, I highly recommend hitting up those people, because people love Austin, people love being here, and a lot of people don't like being here during summer, so they might just be here in fall or spring, and then have it up for listing the rest of the year.
I don't always like being here during the summer, so I don't
None of
blame
us like really being here in the summer
them.
anymore, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that's the opportunity here with this short-term rental license is maybe you take your primary residence, you get that short-term rental license that you were already able to get, but now you can get that, leave for the summer, go wherever else. Maybe you have a second home, maybe you don't, maybe you just rent or travel around in a van, whatever you want to do. but it seems like they're a lot quicker to get now. Like you said, it takes a couple of weeks. I put an application in, it took 6 months before.
Dude, one of our owners did. It took them 9. Like we just got it, and
Wow.
they had just sold, and it was like, thanks. We, you know what I mean? So that's
Made
what I
that
said. It was
money.
taking them so long, and all of a sudden they've been on it, and so that's been really surprising to me. But
Well, that's good to hear. So just to recap, to get a license right now, you really just need to provide proof of insurance.
yeah, so if people go to my website, which is www.fivestarvhr.com, if they go to that news section, I have an article there, and it has all of the things that you need. It has the type 2 application that I don't even think they've got it on their website yet. So so that's super easy to download from ours, and kind of all those instructions. And so I think it's, ID and your registration fee and then insurance. I think that's all you have to send in with your application. They still make you mail it in or like fax it in, something old school. Unless you just want to drop it off in person. So but yeah, it's really easy. It's been really fast. And if anyone has more questions about that, we're always happy to look at places, run numbers for people. We end up turning away probably 9 out of 10 properties just based off of it's not going to make the owner enough money, or it just kind of doesn't fit our portfolio. But we're always happy to talk to people, and then refer them to other property managers that might want to take them on. And anyway, we can help the community, man.
That's awesome. So what's the best way to get a hold of you, Lucas? I know 5starvhr.com. Do you have another way people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, just Instagram, same tag there, 5-star VHR. So love to connect with anyone there.
Awesome. And what is your main Facebook group for Austin short-term rentals?
It is called STR Investing Austin. That sounds right. It's a really long name, but it's STR. If you put in STR Austin, it'll pop up.
Okay.
But yeah.
We'll make sure to get all that in the show notes of your website,
Cool.
your Instagram tag there, and also the Facebook group for anybody interested.
Thanks, buddy. I'm glad we were able to connect today, man.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for coming on. A really hot topic and something really valuable for people to learn.
Good luck, y'all. Let me know if I can help.
All right. Thanks, Lucas. Talk to you later.